Well, very nice to have you join me. My name is Iain McInnes. I'm Vice Principal and Head of College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences in the University of Glasgow in Scotland. And it's my pleasure to be sharing a few thoughts today about the potential future that might await us in the management of people with rheumatoid arthritis. And particularly what I want to do is to think a little about the state of a patient, and I'll explain what I mean by that when we get there. But let's reflect, first of all, on what got us here. Because, it's been a pretty remarkable decade or two for those of us working in the rheumatology field. We've had new medicines, the biologic revolution, and now targeted synthetic DMARDs, but also new strategies, treat early, treat to target, which are pretty much part of our daily vocabulary now, but were quite novel when they arrived. And despite that, we have unmet needs, don't we? We've, I think, still got an insufficient understanding of the underlying pathogenesis of our disease. We've not really adapted to the idea that the immune system that causes rheumatoid probably evolves over time. Preclinical RA is probably a little different from established disease, different once again from people who have difficult to treat disease. And that means we don't properly combine medicines. We don't use our drugs with the appropriate mode of action at the appropriate time. And that means, in turn, that our strategies are pretty crude. We're not choosing the right medicine for the right patient at the right time. So how might we respond to this? Well, of course, one possibility is that we start to think about patients rather than as methotrexate inadequate responders or biologic inadequate responders. We actually think about how they really are. Think about them in an immunological state, thinking about preclinical, established disease, difficult to treat patients in remission, and then even extending that to thinking about their extra-articular state. Our patients have high levels of comorbidity. So that, if you choose to really develop it as an idea, leads us to quite a different way of thinking about rheumatoid arthritis therapeutics. If you think about the current approach, we use a biology-led model. We make medicines because they have plausible targets. And that means, for example, that we have novel biologics, we have novel small molecule inhibitors, there are new JAK inhibitors coming, there are BTK inhibitors being tested, and other kinase inhibitors, IRAK4 and beyond. There are new ways of using existing biologic targets, nanobodies, potentially challenging full-blown antibodies for therapeutic utility. There are cellular therapies, either giving mesenchymal stem cells or potentially amplifying regulatory cells using low-dose IL-2 or PD-1 agonists, and even biostimulation, using the vagus nerve to trigger the immune system into a regulatory construct. But actually, those are, if you like, opportunistic. We develop molecules against pathways that mean something to us. I think the future is going to be deconstructing disease to understand the actual immunological state of each phase of disorder, the adaptive immune dominance of pre-RA, the myeloid stromal innate interactions that dominate established disease, and the as yet unknown factors that drive difficult to treat disease. And that will require us to reconsider the way tissue is deconstructed. And we can do that nowadays with really sophisticated single cell transcriptomics, the new emerging field of spatial biology, where we can actually understand what molecule is expressed in what cell and critically in what part of a synovial tissue. And then, of course, we can extend that to other tissues of interest, the vasculature, the adipose bed, and even the brain, when we think about the comorbidities that commonly occur in our patients. And if you like, the end game of this future that we imagine based on actual tissue understanding of the state of our patient rather than serendipity of the biology that drugs afford to us, potentially could lead to us recharacterizing rheumatoid into different molecular signatures, allowing us to understand the code, the molecular code for a disease, rather than the definition attributed by clinicians, classification, rheumatoid arthritis. That's an interesting possibility. I hope it's intriguing to you as it is to me. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to talk to you today from Berlin. My name is Gerd Burmester. I'm a rheumatologist here in Berlin, Germany. We have a beautiful day today, and I would like to talk about the future of rheumatoid arthritis, which actually has been my field in particular since I did my medical thesis. So this is a disease that I witnessed how we learned to treat the disease, how our understanding evolved. And I would have been asked to talk about the future. So what will be important here? And I would like to start with the pathogenesis. I think one of the most intriguing aspects in rheumatoid arthritis is, first of all, of course, the HLA association that we all know with a DR4, the shared epitope, and of course, notably also the ACPA, the anti-citrinated protein antibodies, and also other antibodies which are directed against post-translationally modified proteins. What is the link between these two will be of great importance in the future, and we hope to learn a lot from the genetic susceptibility and from the occurrence of these autoantibodies, which are directed, interestingly, against proteins that we all have in our bodies. But why rheumatoid arthritis generates an immune response against this is not known, and it will be the matter of intense research in the future. Moreover, we will learn a lot about the microbiome and its interaction with the immune system in rheumatoid arthritis, probably with the innate immune system, the role of diet. And we shouldn't forget that rheumatoid arthritis is linked to smoking, to fine dust exposure, how this all pins together: genetic susceptibility, environmental factors. The microbiome will be very, very fascinating in the future. So in terms of clinical management, I think early recognition of rheumatoid arthritis is most important. We can do so much nowadays for our patients when we identify them earlier and use actually the window of opportunity for our patients. So we need to design strategies in order to, let's say, alert the public, alert the GPs that rheumatoid arthritis, basically, once it's occurring, is a medical emergency and needs our attention as soon as possible. I think this is very important. Early arthritis clinic will be helpful here. Next, very important question will be prediction of therapeutic success. So Mrs. Jones is sitting in front of me in need of a new treatment after she has unfortunately failed methotrexate. What would be the most appropriate drug to take now? Would it be a TNF blocking agent? Would it be an IL-6 directed agent? Would it be a JAK inhibitor? We don't know this currently exactly because we don't have the appropriate biomarkers. And we all hope that looking into clinical aspects of the patient history, it may be also the genetic backup, and also maybe cytokine expression profiles and others, that we will be able in the future to really use the most appropriate treatment upfront in our patients. Maybe artificial intelligence can help us here, integrating all of these findings into our approach so that ultimately the computer would say, well, Mrs. Jones, you should take this particular treatment because we have calculated that this will be the best possible approach. Obviously, also coming to therapeutic aspects, it will be very important to use the therapeutic armamentarium that we have currently very wisely. So it will be important to follow the treat to target concept, not that the patients wait on a treatment that is not or only moderately successful, but use this approach, and this cannot be re-emphasized too much, because sometimes in daily clinical practice, we tend to deviate a little bit from it because we have time constraints and other factors. So this will be very important. So strategies could be refined in order to treat patients as early as possible with the best possible treatment to reach the therapeutic targets. We need to take into account comorbidities, which I think we can do much better now, but it will be primarily the task of the rheumatologist to identify these comorbidities and then jointly with the specialists or the GPs treat these comorbidities appropriately. in order to get also the best medical outcome for our patients. So innovative approaches will be necessary as well. And here it could be a combination of therapies with, let's say, a biologic, a small molecule that we would have in the future. It could also be cell-directed treatment. We have learned a lot from patients with systemic autoimmune diseases like lupus, where stem cell therapy has been successful. Plasma cell-directed treatment has been successful, and recently also CAR T-cell approaches have been successful. Obviously, in rheumatoid arthritis, many of these approaches have not been tried yet. So because we feel that with the current therapeutic armamentarium, in many patients, we won't need it. However, what the patients truly want is a cure. And can we reach cures with our modern armamentarium? I'm afraid not, because we can really get the disease into remission in many proportions of patients, but we still need our drugs in order to treat our patients for sometimes even decades. So what our patients want actually is a cure. And we might reach this with the redirection of the immune system, of a reset of the immune system, maybe based on findings that we have made in diseases like lupus, systemic sclerosis, using novel approaches. So I'm very hopeful that using all these combinations, we will be able to treat rheumatoid arthritis, which was really a devastating disease when I started my rheumatology career, and of course can be treated now much better, but there's still a lot of open questions to address. Nevertheless, I'm very optimistic that we will be able to treat this disease so much better in the future. So there is bright hope for our patients with rheumatoid arthritis. And with these words, I thank you very much for your attention and hope for the best for our patients. Thank you very much.